And welcome back to America Talks Live. I am Bill Tucker, and I am joined now by William Jacobson. He's professor of law, director at the Security Law Clinic at Cornell Law School, and he is founder of LegalInsurrection.com. I've got a lot of things we can start talking about here today, but I want to start with your piece that you wrote saying basically friends shouldn't be investigating friends. And I was kind of shocked by that, and I'm going to let you explain in a second, because I'm thinking Robert Mueller does not look like he's a friend investigating a friend when it comes to President Trump, because he has gone out and hired Andrew Weissman and Michael Drebin, both of whom were part of a very problematic prosecution, as it turned out, of Arthur Anderson, because the Arthur Anderson case and the Enron thing was thrown out because of they were overly aggressive. They were overly broad in terms of their application of the law. It looks like Mueller's putting together a hit squad. So I was kind of shocked by the title of your article.
Right. And when I was talking about friends shouldn't be investigating friends, I was not talking about Mueller's investigation of supposed Russian involvement, Russian interference, Russian collusion. I'm talking specifically about how the case has dramatically changed since James Comey was outed himself as the leaker of a memorandum to the New York Times and testified before the Senate. Remember, this case started as an investigation of Russian involvement. We now know from Comey's testimony that as of the date Comey was fired in late May, Donald Trump individually was not under investigation for anything, not criminal, not counterintelligence. So there's nothing for Mueller to be investigating about Donald Trump individually, except for one thing, which is James Comey's conversations with Donald Trump regarding the Michael Flynn investigation. That's where Comey famously quotes Trump as saying, "I hope you let it go. He's a good guy." I'm paraphrasing there. That is now the center of attention. That involves James Comey as a key witness. Who is James Comey personally and professionally friendly with? Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller should, if he is going to consider the alleged obstruction of justice asserted by James Comey, should not be the prosecutor or the investigator in this, because he's friendly with a key witness, James Comey. So that's what I meant when I said friends should not be investigating friends. And Robert Mueller, if he is considering Trump's asserted obstruction of justice, cannot and should not be the investigator on this case.
Well, this whole thing seems problematic to me, because fundamentally this is a he said thing. In President Trump, I don't know if it's to his credit or not, has said he's willing to testify under oath that is not what he said. Is that a good idea for the president to do that?
Well, I think that it's extremely dangerous. I don't think he's legally obligated to do that. But as you know, the FBI, Comey, was involved in the Martha Stewart prosecution, where they never proved a crime by her. It was obstruction of justice. And that's been a pattern of Comey's career, is going after people initially for a potential crime. When he can't prove the crime, he proves they weren't sufficiently cooperative or lied to him or misled him, and prosecutes them for that. So I think that it's extremely dangerous for Donald Trump to get involved voluntarily in speaking with the FBI under oath or not under oath, regardless of whether he's right or he's wrong, or what he recalls, or he said, because that is what this crew that Mueller's putting together specializes in. They specialize, if they can't get you on the substantive crime, they get you on the so-called process crime, which is a crime committed in the course of the investigation. Well, and that's why this is beginning to smell a little bit like a traditional Comey setup, like he did with Martha Stewart and others, like was done with Scooter Libby by another special counsel, special prosecutor, that they don't get you on the crime, they get you on the process. And therefore, Donald Trump, even if he's right about what was said or what was not said, needs to be extremely, extremely careful around a group of prosecutors who, as I think you've noted, have a history of bringing overly aggressive prosecutions.
Yeah. And that's not just my characterization of it, by the way, just so we're clear, this was the court's characterization of it. In fact, those convictions were thrown out. You also wrote a piece about the pathetic endings to the prosecutorial careers of James Comey and Loretta Lynch. I'm presuming, having not read this particular piece, that relates to Comey's confession of language matter versus investigation.
Well, it relates to two things. It relates to Comey's admitting that he surreptitiously, through a surrogate, leaked, it may not have been a classified memo, but it certainly was a memo created by him as FBI director, government property. He leaked it to the New York Times. So his career is ending as a leaker. And Loretta Lynch's career is ending with James Comey's testimony that she forced him to misdescribe the nature of the investigation of Hillary Clinton's email server by calling it a matter rather than an investigation. I don't think she's come publicly forward with her side of the story. All we have is Comey's, but he wanted to describe it as an investigation, and she told him, no, you have to call it a matter, which coincidentally is how the Clinton campaign was portraying it. They were out there saying, there's no investigation of Hillary or her server. It's just something they're reviewing, a bunch of euphemisms. And we have the prospect of Loretta Lynch's career ending not only with the secret meeting with Bill Clinton on the airplane on the tarmac when Bill Clinton's wife was under investigation, but also the positioning of this consistent with the campaign as not being an investigation. So I think for two people who have long prosecutorial careers, while there certainly were some bumps in their roads, they had, coming into this Trump matter, Clinton matter, pretty good reputations, are not leaving nearly as good as they started.
Yeah, that is interesting. We have less than a minute here, but I went really quickly. You wrote a piece about the Jewish Voice for Peace, which is a very misleading name. It's simply a branch of the BDS. They recently tried to target LGBT youth at the Israel Day Parade. Why?
Right. I mean, you have to understand the pathology of some of these anti-Israel activists. And Jewish Voice for Peace is an anti-Israel group. It's not actually a Jewish group, and I think it's disputable whether they're for peace, but they're very aggressive. And the one thing they hate more than anything is that Israel has a far better track record on LGBT issues than any country in the Middle East, certainly than any Muslim country. And that doesn't help them when they want to demonize Israel. So they actually targeted a group of LGBT youth who were participating in the Israel Day Parade, disrupted them, tried to prevent them from marching, pushed them around. There's video of it. And it's really just a very disturbing trend. It's very similar to what we're seeing in this Antifa stuff and the extreme left getting more and more aggressive. And I think it's a very troubling sign.
I don't like it either. And thank you for your time today, William.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Remember,
Take
the rest
care.
of